Hello everyone. First off, I want to apologize for the low lighting. Um, just happens to be where I'm at and what time of day it is. So, speaking of, it's 5 in the morning. So hopefully this doesn't come out too terribly. But real quick, I wanted to do a video on how I do all of my video stuff. So how I stream with Twitch, how I upload to YouTube, and how I do editing and stuff like this, and how it can be all done without having to pay for any software. I'm not talking about downloading anything or doing anything illegal like this. I'm just talking about free software, free stuff. So let's get into it, shall we? First thing I want to talk about is Twitch. Twitch is a really cool streaming service. Obviously, you probably know what it is if you're here watching this. Otherwise, I don't know how you got here or what you're doing, but feel free to stay and hang out. It's all whatever. But for Twitch, you have to have your own encoder, and you have to have your own upstream software. I don't know what the terminology is. I'm not a I don't know. I'm not a nerd like that, so I don't know. I'm nerdy about some other stuff, but anyway. Twitch talks about on the page there some different options for streaming apps, XSplit and what's it called? Wirecast, I think. Yeah, Wirecast. Those are both really good pieces of software, so I hear, but they're quite pricey. The other option that Twitch talks about is Flash Media Encoder, so that's the one that we're going to be talking about here. The only downside of Flash Media Encoder that I've seen is it doesn't output to any video format except for Flash stuff if you wanted to save a file, but that's okay because we're going to be taking advantage of Twitch's direct upload to YouTube service, and we're also going to save ourselves some bandwidth there. So we're going to save some hard drive space, we're going to save some processing power, and we're going to save bandwidth with that. But we'll get into that here in a little bit. First thing I want to do is I want to talk to you about what I'm actually doing. I'm using the OnLive service, which is cloud gaming, and I'm playing on my MacBook Pro with 8 gigs of memory, I think, and an i7. But you don't need all of that, with OnLive at least. You can do all of this, all these really intense games with like the crappiest computer on the planet. I could actually probably take my CR48 Chromebook and play some really intense, Unreal Tournament or Crysis or stuff like this. But that's another time, another video about OnLive. But that's what we're going to be using here in the example, so that's why I bring it up. But what we are going to be using our processors and memory and most importantly bandwidth for is going to be the encoding and the upstream of our screencast, right? So real quick, I'm going to go through a list of programs, and all this stuff are going to be links in the description, but some of the things that you're going to need to have to do this, and once again, these are all free, but you're going to need, like we talked about, Flash Media Encoder, and that's going to be used to encode and upstream your screen. You're going to need CamTwist, which is a really neat piece of software. And also, obviously, as the video just talks about, we're going to be doing this in the Mac, on the Mac, because that's what I'm using. But I haven't checked to see if CamTwist and some of these other applications are available for Windows. I know SoundFlower is not, but I'm sure there's some equivalent thing out there. So, if you're doing this on Windows, good luck. I have to do that, another video maybe for that. I'm not sure if I want to go there. I'm not a big Windows fan. Anyway, okay. Well, now that I said that, I got to say I'm not a big Mac fan either. But I'm a Linux person, and so BSD, which is what Mac's based on, works for me. Anyway, so you need Flash Media Encoder. You need this CamTwist thing, and the reason why you need CamTwist is because Flash Media Encoder basically all it does is it takes a video output device, for example my FaceTime camera, and it encodes it, and then it can save it to a file or stream it to Twitch, for example. But it doesn't have access to like the desktop or anything like that. Basically what it's doing is it's looking at the kernel and saying, kernel, what video devices do you have available? What video hardware is there that I can tap into? And the desktop is not a video device. It doesn't work like that. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using CamTwist to actually create a virtual video device that is constructed from what we see on our desktop. And we can also do some of the cool things. We can mix in some extra stuff in there. I'll talk about briefly like how I get my FaceTime camera included in that and some other stuff. So first thing let's do, let's go ahead and open up CamTwist. So I like to use the spotlight there. That's Command Space for those who like keyboard shortcuts. So here we go, and I've got a couple of settings, saved setups here, but we're gonna create them from brand new. Basically, you can use Desktop or Desktop Plus. I use Desktop Plus just because it's got some extra options that I don't actually use, but I like to have available if I want to change my setup on the fly. I don't have to drop my effect and then recreate it. Anyway, basically what you've got here is steps 1, 2, and 3. We're going to be skipping 2 because we don't care about this stuff. But basically, step 1, these are the various types of video sources or things that you can generate input or generate outputs from. So these are various inputs. So webcam, desktop, desktop plus, like I've mentioned, slideshow, movie, flicker set, and VNC. So as you can see just right here, this creates a lot of really cool potential things that we could generate from these various video sources. VNC, for example, that'd be pretty neat. You could actually stream, or you could, so using this with Flash Media Encoder, you can actually stream from another computer's desktop or something using VNC. Granted, it would maybe suck, but I don't know. It'd be cool to play around with this. Anyway, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do Desktop Plus. I double clicked it. I'm gonna reset this so it would be as if you just opened it. So we're double click it, and then it shows up under Effects in Use. And for Desktop Plus and Desktop, you can pick which screen you want. This screen, main screen. I'm assuming that's if you have multiple monitors plugged in. I'm not really sure. I haven't played around with it too much, but we're going to leave it at this screen. And then full screen is checked by default. That's fine. If you want to, you can confine to application window. But in the specific case of OnLive, I'm not sure if that works because when you go full screen, it's not windowed anymore. So I'm not sure how Aqua handles that with Aqua being the window manager. I'm not sure how that works. So I just leave the full screen. It's not a big deal, filtered out untitled windows though. That's just something that's for this selection box here. That doesn't actually affect your option or the effect that we're messing with. So if I just uncheck this, see we have a lot more stuff. These are untitled windows, so that doesn't really matter. Anyway, you could also select if you're confining to an application window, you could just select capture area. But once again, if you're going full screen with your gaming program or whatever program it is, if you're going full screen with that, obviously you just want full screen, so it's kind of stupid. But if you're doing like just a small window or something, and you don't trust that, or maybe it's maybe it's a Java application or something like this, and you don't trust that Aqua can handle tracking the actual window details, you could select your own manual area there. And then you have this option for show mouse pointer, and I'm not sure what that looks like. I've never tried it, but obviously it just tracks your mouse pointer as you go. And we can preview what we have going on here by doing Command P, or for those who don't like keyboard shortcuts, you can go up to Tools and then Preview there, and that'll give us this little window. Which is the cool thing about it is it's resizable. Obviously, we're getting some visual feedback here because it's a window, but it's pretty neat. Anyway, I'm going to uncheck this. Okay, so when we uncheck it, it actually removes our cursor altogether. That's neat. So keep that in mind. If you want your cursor to show up, like if you're playing Minecraft, for example, and you want people to see where your mouse is when you're dragging stuff around your inventory, you probably want to leave that checked because I don't think that'll happen otherwise. But it's not actually doing it. It's simulating it because of the way this thing functions. It's on more of a lower level, so it's not like it's taking a picture of your screen. It's a lot more efficient as well because it's doing it not like that. Anyhow, this is pretty much all you need for this effect, and basically you just click on Save Setup after you have the effect you want. So New Setup, and then there it is down here. So if you completely close out of the application and you open it back up again, you're going to be back at square one. But we can click on our setup that we saved there, and it restores it. So that's basically how that works. Now, with with the videos that I do, if you've seen any of them, actually this one doesn't count. This one's done a little differently. This is using a piece of software called ScreenFlow, which isn't free, but you can't do it all the time. But for the live streaming and for the then corresponding upload to YouTube, you can do it this way, and it's totally legit. That's the way I do it, just because it's easy. But for adding your camera, what you do is you go over here, and the video source is webcam. Well, you can actually stack these things. So why did we drop Desktop Plus? Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. So I'm going to click back on this. You have to click Picture in Picture. So we select Webcam, then we do Picture in Picture, and now we have these things stacked. So if we open a preview window here, let's see, let's put it down here, because my usual, obviously you're going to be seeing my face up in the top right corner. So let's drag it down here so we can see what's going on. So now what we have in the preview, if you can kind of just wrap your head around this, I know that there's a lot of different windows and they're coming from different places and stuff, but if you can wrap your head around it, what we're doing here is we're taking the webcam input and we're mapping it to this virtual output, and then the preview window, this is what like Flash Media Encoder is going to see, for example. So the options that we have here with the webcam, settings, we can change which actual camera it is. So if you have multiple cameras plugged in, that's where you want to go to swap that out. But as for the picture-in-picture, scale, probably the first thing you want to do. So we can make this reasonable, manageable size. And then here we can actually drag where this thing is going to show up at. So we can drop it down, say in the bottom right, because well, let's do top left. No, let's do bottom left. Yeah, all right. I can't make up my mind. Anyway, so here I'm not really sure if it's in the bottom left or not, because there's dark colors and stuff like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this nudge button, and now I can move it just a little bit at a time, a few pixels. And in fact, now I can't really see, because like I said, it's dark and stuff like this. I can't tell if it's fully aligned to the left or not. I'm actually going to pull it to the right just to make sure. So a little, I guess, pro tip or whatever, if you increase this border width here, that puts a border around your video. Duh. So now you can bump it over, and you can tell when it starts hitting the edge there. So now we know it's pretty much on the edge. And then the bottom option, I don't know why it's cut off. I don't know if that's just on my screen or if other people experience this too, but you can still click it, and this is the border color. So I like to go with a dark gray. That's what you'll see in my video. So that's what we're gonna do here in the video. And then you just click X to save that change. And then also something I do is, depending on where I'm at, and I do tweak this per stream, but I save a reasonable default. We can crop our video here, so I don't want the rest of this room to be in a video, and we can cut down on it a little bit. Basically, it's just to cut down on the amount of space that this window is going to take up, so you can have more room for your game or whatever it is that you're streaming or recording. So now we have a reasonable size window. It's got a cool colored border, so we can kind of distinguish it from the background. It doesn't do anything crazy with the surrounding pixels and such. And then we also now we can move it into position nicely and fit it snug down in that corner there. So in this case, you might want to actually drag it. Turn the nudge off. Drag it a little closer. Turn nudge back on. Yep. So anyway, that's how we get our picture-in-picture stuff. And don't forget, whenever you're finished with messing with these settings, you got to click on Save Setup again. And I'm just going to type New Setup to overwrite these settings. So now if we were to completely close out of this program once again and reopen it, back at square one, click on New Setup, and we got our picture-in-picture webcam. Why do we not? Okay, so I think what I did here was when I added the Desktop Plus back, it had nothing to do with what I said before. Ignore me about that thing. When I clicked Save Setup, I had this Don't Include Video Source box checked. Pretty sure that's what did it. New, what do I want to set up? And we'll overwrite. Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, I mean, okay, no, I can kind of see that. Like, if you wanted to change it on a per run basis, something like this. I don't know. I kind of get that anyway. But we do want to save the video source because, like here, you can see I have on live and on live plus cam. So this is exactly the same thing, just in a different order. Which actually, that's the same order. Doesn't matter. Point is, I have them saved, and that's why, because I want to use my desktop all the time. So I do want to save that video source. Anyway, so we can preview it, make sure it still looks good. I recreated the when I cut the video, I actually recreated it. So we'll just move back here. But if you were following along, first of all, congratulations, you're like the multitasker of the century, because that's a lot of windows to keep up with. Anyhow, well, I'm not going to crop it. We'll just assume it's cropped. Anyway, then we'll save it, overwrite, new, setup. All right, close it, reopen it, just check, make sure testing is good. All right, preview it. What's going on here? Oh, I did it again. I forgot to, yep, I forgot to uncheck this box. This box is killing me. The funny thing is, I don't remember unchecking that box when I saved my settings, so that's why I'm a little thrown off here. But that did it. We can look at our preview. We're good. All right. I'm sorry for wasting a smidge of your time on that. Anyhow, moving on. So this is running, so we can minimize it. We don't need this preview window. It's going to be doing its thing in the background. We don't really care about it anymore because it's doing something low level that just provides the video input for us to access later on. Right? So the next thing we want is you're going to want to do your SoundFlower stuff. I'm just going to go ahead and quit it real quick because we're assuming it's already running. SoundFlower is another program, and what it's going to do is it's going to be manipulating our inputs and outputs for our audio, right? And this is how we're going to get our game audio to present itself in our stream and present itself to Flash Media Encoder, right? So it can encode it and include it in our stream. So you're going to want to go ahead and open up a SoundFlower bed, and what this does is it doesn't open a window, but it does put this nice little icon up here at the top, and then if you click on it, you see we have a couple things, and it might be a little confusing at first, but we'll get there. You've got the SoundFlower 2 channel that has a dropout. You've got SoundFlower 16 channel, which has a dropout, and you've got all this stuff, all this crazy stuff, and then you've got some options down here, and you could even click on audio setup, and then it takes you to this MIDI configuration where you can create aggregate devices and all kinds of crazy things that I don't really understand, just because I don't need to. I'm not an audio engineer either, so we're just going to close that window, and what we're going to do is we're going to send all of our system audio output. So the game makes noise, right? On live, for example, here is going to be playing sounds and music and stuff like this as we're playing the game. What we're going to do is we're going to capture that. Instead of sending that audio to our speakers or our headphones, we're going to send it to a SoundFlower. And so the way we're going to do that is we're just going to open up our preferences. Once again, I like I'm a command line person, so I like to type. You could just click on preferences down here if you want. But and while we're here, I'm just going to go ahead and quit that. I'm going to force quit that. Okay, so we're going to open up preferences. We're going to go to sound, or just another alternate way to get here, by the way, is if you click on the sound thing, if you have it on your dock, or no, not dock, but the bar here, it does that. But if you alt click, you have this really cool interface here where you can switch devices right from here. You don't have to open this preferences at all, but if you wanted to open preferences, you could do it here. So once again, a couple ways to get there, but once you're there, make sure your input, and this is for microphone, make sure your microphone is on external mic. This is never going to change. It should already be here, but important note, because I've done this myself, if you open your preferences, your sound preferences, and you're not paying attention, it's really easy to go, oh, I need to change this to SoundFlower or whatever, but then you don't realize that you changed your input. Okay, yeah, so you guys probably didn't hear what I was just saying there because of exactly the reason you don't want to do what I just did. If you open your preferences pane and you don't pay attention to what you're clicking on here, you can change your microphone input to something else, and in this specific case that was actually a really bad thing because the program I'm using now was not able to capture my audio input, but in this case it actually, you won't notice it until you test your stream and you're like, why don't I hear any sound? Because what we actually want to do is we want to change the output, not the input. So just long story short, make sure you're on output when you change the settings. So once we're on output, we're gonna start with a simple setup here. We're not gonna talk about including your microphone in the stream just yet. We'll do that here in a minute. But for the simple setup, you want to click SoundFlower 2 channel. And what this does is this pipes all of your computer's audio output to this virtual sound output. And then when you click on the SoundFlower flower bed, you want to, under this 2 channel, see how like this section is a thing and then this section is a thing? Under the 2 channel, click on built-in output. And then what that does is after SoundFlower captures your input by doing this here, it will then forward it to you without creating a loop. That's the key. It doesn't create this loop because that would just be terrible. So it will allow you to still hear your sound even though it's being captured somewhere else. So it's like it's piping it somewhere. Anyway, that's what you want to do so that you can get your sound in the stream and still hear it in your headphones or whatever. So the next thing you want to do is you want to open Flash Media Encoder, right? So this is the last step basically for what we're talking about. Just like I said, a simple setup. And if you're doing Twitch, if you go to Twitch, here I'm on my dashboard, you can go to, let's see, where is it? Okay. All right, that's strange. That's really dumb. All right, they should put that in a better place. So if you go to your dashboard, you click on your name. Obviously, you have to create an account. Duh. So you click on your name, go to dashboard. That'll take you here. Once you're at your dashboard, click on this streaming apps icon. Really dumb place to put this. Once you're in the streaming apps section, this is where you can see how expensive some of these things are. $500 almost for Wirecast. That's crazy. XSplit, I haven't actually priced it because, like I said, I don't really care. I just figured this way out and it works great. So for Flash Media Encoder, though, you need a configuration file. So if you just click on this this config button here, it'll download the config. And also, if you are too lazy to click the links in the description, you can just go here and get Flash Media Encoder. Same deal. Anyway, download this config file. And what that will then let you do is, in Flash Media Encoder, you can go open Profile and navigate to wherever it is. So for me, it's in Downloads. My downloads are organized by date. So it's one of the most recent things I downloaded. So here we go. This is JTV, Justin TV, which is what Twitch was called before. 500K, 16.9, blah, 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 XML. So this is a baseline kind of configuration for your Twitch stream. But the most important thing is that, you know, it's got this FMS, the RTMP stuff set up, and it's got your stream thing here. But the stream, this is just a key. It's security through obscurity, really, is what it is, because that's a really long, you know, alphanum ASCII. It might be actually, it might just be all straight ASCII. Anyhow, yeah, because I see some underscores in there. But anyway, that is not going to be right, at least from what I've experienced. I would imagine that it should be right, but you know, I guess it's not. Whatever. But in order to get that, you're going to want to click this Show Key button. But make sure you're not like streaming when you do this, which is the reason why I'm not going to click it. We're just going to pretend like I did. But this is what's going to provide this string, and that's what you're going to want to put in there. You're going to replace this with that, and I'm going to change it anyhow. But I'm still not going to click this button just because. I'm just trolling you. You know, there's a button there. Click it. All right. So make sure you do that. Otherwise, you're going to get your log is going to say, you know, disconnected, failure. It's going to try to reconnect a whole bunch of times, and it's going to be ugly. But anyway, once you do that, you're going to be at a really baseline type thing. And actually, let me make sure that I've saved it. Yeah, I did. I saved it. All right. So I'm going to open that file that I downloaded. So this I just downloaded this earlier the other day. And yeah, so you might get this profile validation. Some profile or some of the tags in profile have incorrect or no values. Flash Media Live Encoder will use default values for these tags. Whatever, doesn't matter. Don't care. I don't care. You don't care. What's important to note here, though, or under Device, you want to select that drop down there, and make sure it's on CamTwist. Now, right now, my FaceTime camera is not showing up. It would have been default selected, but right now it's not because it's currently being used by the application that I'm using to record this video. But you're going to want to select CamTwist from the drop-down because that's that virtual video device that we talked about, right? And then you're, oh, real quick, sorry. Sidetrack, I'm not going to edit this video and inject this earlier, even though I probably should, but just stand by 1 second because there is another important thing we have to do in CamTwist. So I'm going to pull that back up real quick and I'm going to minimize Flash Video Player, and I'm actually going to just close that. So real quick, back in CamTwist, you want to go to the Preferences, and under General, you need to set, first of all, if you're going to change your frame rate, you should change it here, not just in Flash Media Encoder, because you need to have everything lined up. Because basically what this is going to do, this is going to record your screen at 30 frames per second, but if you then proceed into Flash Media Player and go at like 60, for example, it doesn't matter. You're only getting 30 on the input of Flash. So make sure you have all your numbers pretty much the same. But here, the video size, this is what's important in this preferences pane. And note, you do have to restart CamTwist whenever you make these changes. And I already have changed this to these numbers, so they're going to be something different for you probably when you first run the application. But just change it to custom, and it has some nice defaults built in if your screen is that size, or if that's what you want to output to. But I don't recommend that. What I recommend is outputting to your native video, or at least as close as you can get to your native resolution of your screen. So that way, it's kind of like rounding. If you think about math, if you do some complex math operation and you round every step of the way, like some Microsoft applications do, your numbers don't end up matching what they should be in the end. But if you wait until the very last operation and then you round at the very end, if you carry all of those values over, then you're going to have a lot more accurate number. So that's kind of a simile to what we're doing here. So we want to make sure that we get our native resolution captured, and then that's what we're sending to Flash Media Encoder. My native resolution is 1440 by 900, but I think due to some aspect ratio restriction, it's not letting me save it, and it automatically changed it back to 1400. But it's not a big deal. I lose 20 pixels on each side of the screen, whatever. But once again, make sure you restart this program whenever you make changes to that. And also, make sure if you don't have CamTwist running or you have to restart it, make sure you restart Flash Media Encoder as well, because Flash Media Encoder is relying on this virtual device to be available. And if CamTwist isn't running when it's up, you might have some issues there. So just play it safe. Start Flash Media Encoder after you've already got your thing going. Anyway, back to Flash. What we see here, we've got video and audio checked. The audio is going to be coming from... Okay, excuse me, I misspoke a moment earlier. We were talking about your video input, your video devices and your audio devices in Flash Media Encoder. You apparently, and the reason why I didn't catch this earlier is because I never really tested it. I once again assumed, which we know what happens when you assume things. Anyway, I'm still confident that if CamTwist was not running, you would definitely see your FaceTime camera here. However, CamTwist is occupying or using the FaceTime camera, so that's why it's not in this list. However, in the audio device list, we're not seeing built-in out or whatever, just because we can't capture it. I think just because the kernel uses that to send it to the actual audio hardware. So I think that's the reason why we have to use SoundFlower here. Don't quote me on it. If you know, send me send me a message, type something up, and tell me either I'm an idiot or I know what I'm talking about, or I got lucky, whatever. I like response feedback. Anyway, point is, the way that we set this up earlier with our audio preferences, if we just check real quick again, we go back to sound, right? So we're outputting all of our audio to SoundFlower 2-channel. And then we're getting our audio back to our output by forwarding it from SoundFlower back to that output. So the way that we can capture that in here is obviously by selecting SoundFlower 2-channel. So now this makes sure that all of our game audio and our computer audio, so when I do this, you actually hear it in the stream and on the YouTube video. That's how we capture that, right? So format, MP3. I just prefer MP3. If you really want to do AAC, you could. I'm not really sure why you would. Channel, please do stereo. If you're working on a low bandwidth income kind of thing, like you've got a low bandwidth budget, I mean, you know, if you mix it down into audio, I think that might, or mix it down into mono, that actually has no effect on your bandwidth usage. Okay, whatever. Go with stereo. Screw it. Sample rate. This is something that I wouldn't mess with. You're gonna get degraded audio quality if you start changing this. It's gonna start sounding more and more like you're talking to somebody on an older and older phone the lower you go with this. So I would just leave it alone. But bit rate, this is something that you can feel free to mess with. I have cable, and we have actually I'm not sure what we have. Let's do a speed test real quick. This is something you might want to do on your own while you're at it. I think we have like 12 down and 2 up, or 10 down and 2 up, or something like this. But let's just do a speed test real quick, and you know, so this is all, you know, off the cuff. Let's just see what happens, and we'll adjust our settings accordingly, because that's what you guys are going to have to do as well. You're going to have to take into consideration what kind of bandwidth you have to work with, and also, you know, what you're willing to sacrifice, because maybe you don't want to go all the way and use all your bandwidth. Maybe you have other people in the house who need to use it as well, or you know, maybe you're just trying to multitask and stuff like this. I have to take into consideration, because I'm using OnLive, that OnLive also needs a significant amount of bandwidth, because it has to stream up my keyboard and mouse input, and then it has to stream back down the video output from the virtual machine that's running my game. They do that very efficiently though, and I'm really impressed with the result. But keep in mind, it is a bandwidth hog, so we need to make sure that we have enough room on both sides for this. So we just got 12 megabit down, okay, call it 13, whatever, 1.5 up, right? So what we're going to be paying attention to is that 1.5 up, and that's going to be here. So total bandwidth required to stream is what we're looking at here. So right now it's at 440 kbps, and so this is about half of a megabyte or megabit per second, which, what's that, 1/16 of a megabyte? It's not a lot, but the point is, this is measured in megabits per second, and this is kilobits per second. So we're just gonna say there's 1,000 kilobits in a megabit, you know, math, right? Okay. So we're just going to keep watching this number, and this is our target. You know, whatever it is that you're trying to kind of like stay in between your sweet spot, that's what you want to look at, right? So I'm just going to go all the way, because I have lots of bandwidth to use. And audio, while I want the sound to be really, really good, it doesn't really affect, you know, your bit rate directly affects your total bandwidth required, because that's you know, that's bit rate. They're the same kind of measurement, but the number doesn't change a whole lot. It's not like the video bit rate. It can't get to be 50,000 or something crazy like this, you know. So we'll just change it to something nice, and then let's see. So now let's move on to video. So the format, you can use H.264 or VP6. You know, you can start a fire war over which one's better, blah, blah, blah. Generally speaking, though, H.264 is considered to be better quality for lower bit rate. So, you know, while in the real world there is no such thing as data compression, you know, you generally notice, or as the community quotes, you generally notice more for less, is the best way to put it, probably. Frame rate, I do 60, and once again, in order to make sure that's going to work, I need to have my thing here set to 60. So let's just do that, right? And you might have to restart for that change. I don't think you do, though. It doesn't matter. We're just going to assume restart. You know, if you don't know, just do it. It doesn't take long. But keep in mind, we have to restart Flash Media Encoder as well. And if you do have to restart it in the middle of configuring, just save your configuration. You know, whatever. So frame rate 60, and then we're going to check the input size here. The input size is what your video is coming in to Flash Media Encoder at, and then your output here, your output size, this is what you're going to convert it to. Do not forget to change these numbers, because if you don't change these numbers, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I'm rocking 920 by 1080, you know, because I've got massive upstream, and then you go to look at your stream and it looks like shit because it's actually 320 by 160 or 180, excuse me. But yeah, I did this and I was like, what's going on here? What the hell? And that's why I didn't change my output size. Anyway, so video input is going to be what Flash expects your input to be coming in at. Obviously, we can't specify a custom size here, so I'm going to get as close as I can. I'm actually going to do 1280 by 720 just because of the aspect ratio. But with regard to the numbers, they're as close as they can get. 1920 by 1080 overshoots my 1440 by 900, so I'm going to go with 1280 by 720. And then we're going to, so you see our output scale down a little bit, doesn't matter. We're going to change our output though to be, let's just make it 1280 by 720. 720p is generally an accepted, a really good publicly accepted high definition resolution. Bleh. And it should give you some really good results. If you really wanted to go crazy, you could bump it up to 1920 by 1080, and you could just go nuts. If you do that though, I would change this because if you make your input lower than your output, you're going to be stretching pixels and interpolating, and that's bad. So just keep in mind, I would just basically keep these two the same. If you're trying to do HD, if you're trying to do this on the cheap, maybe go with 720 by 480. That's 480p. That's probably the next best thing. That's what your YouTube videos are traditionally going to be. If they're not HD, they're going to be 720 by 480. So you should be good there. And also, this is assuming progressive, right? So that's the P in the 480p and 1080p and 720p. CamTwist is going to do progressive. It's not going to do interlace. And if you don't know what that is, basically progressive is it does the whole screen one line at a time, and it scans like this, or the horizontal, depending on if you're talking about hardware. In this case, it's software, so it doesn't really matter. But interlace is going to do, it's going to refresh instead of the whole screen at once, one line at a time. It's going to refresh every other line. And if you're doing something with a lot of action and stuff like this and a lot of motion, you're going to notice interlacing, especially if you're looking for it. But maybe you could get away with it depending on what the resolution of the screen is. If you have a higher resolution screen, you may notice it less. I'm not really sure how true that actually is. But point is, we don't have to worry about de-interlace because we're not running any interlace. So we're getting progressive. We don't have to worry about it. Time code. If you want to put a time code on there, whatever, man. I don't want to. And crop, you could crop here if you wanted to, but we're assuming that you're running full screen. That's what our CamTwist settings are set up for, so we're not going to mess with that. But the bit rate here I do want to change because 350 kilobits per second, it's not going to cut it for me. We've got 1.48 megabits per second up, so let's max it out, right? Let's crank this thing up to 12. Yeah, there we go. So we're rocking 1424. And we've got 1480 to work with, assuming that we're using decimal, not 8-bit. I'm assuming we're using 10-bit bytes and not 8-bit bytes in this calculation. I don't know, exactly if it's 1024 or if it's 1,000 for kilobits to megabits, but it doesn't matter. We're looking at this number. Looks good, right? It's awesome. So we got our stream settings figured out, and we can test connect here, and it says connected, so our connection set up properly. But that doesn't guarantee that it's going to stream. That just means that we can connect to the RTMP client, or I guess it's a host. Yeah, we're connecting to the RTMP host. But that doesn't mean that this is valid. So you will be able to connect, but if this is wrong, you won't be able to stream, and you'll get that in the log. We'll actually mess this up on purpose just to see what happens. So all of our stuff set up properly. If you need auto adjust, say like you have some other stuff going on and things are bound to change on the fly, you can either opt to degrade the quality or start dropping frames. Degrade quality obviously is going to start messing with these numbers, and it's gonna start messing with your bits per second and stuff like this. So you're gonna see more pixelated things as your quality degrades. But if you start dropping frames, it's gonna start skipping, but it's gonna be the same quality. And then you can mess with the buffer size and degrade quality settings, so it doesn't really matter. I don't have this turned on because I want it to just go and be awesome. And we know based on our numbers that we've calculated everything should work out fine, assuming we're using basically all of the upload. I'm not really doing anything else. And if you're just surfing the internet or even like watching Netflix, stuff like that, you're not really going to be using any upload. Most people don't use a whole lot of upload, and that's why DSL is called actually ADSL, and why people have a lot smaller upload than they do download, because most of the things we do download. The only thing you need to upload for is, like, to get a web page, for example, you send an HTTP request up to the internet and then you get something back on the down. So, if your upload's completely clogged, you won't be able to do anything. So we don't want to completely block it off, but we want to use as much of it as we can without doing that. So if you wanted also to save to a file at the same time as you're streaming, you could do that. That's really cool. If you have another project you're working on or whatever, and you need to have like the actual file, you could do this. I don't necessarily recommend it. I would save the processing power that's required to do this, because you can actually download your recorded streams from Twitch later on. But if you're not using Twitch, then you might want to take that into consideration. There's also this auto DVR record feature. I'm not really sure what that is or how it works, but it might have something similar. I think it does something similar to that. I could be wrong. If you know, let me know. Send me a message in the thing. So basically, we're set up here. We're good to go. So let's start streaming, shall we? I will close this window and pull up my Twitch dashboard, and let's start streaming. Oh, also, I forgot to talk about one more important thing. When you mess with your format and all this stuff, you have to click on the little wrench here. This is something you want to change. Profile, put it on main. Honestly, don't know what that is. That's what I read it to do, and I've had good results from it. So if you know, please let me know, because I would love to learn about this, what this means. But it's something to do with signal, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, this level thing, that's what that message was talking about. Level is really confusing if you ask me. Once again, not an audio engineer, not a digital signal analyst or any of this crap. But this is, from what I've read, it's specific to H.264. I imagine that VPA6 has something similar. But if you go to the Wikipedia page for MPEG, for H.264/MPEG-4 AVC. I'll put a link in the description. And you scroll down here to the section. Actually, you don't have to scroll. This is what named anchors are for, right? So levels, right? 8. So click on levels. This gives us a really cool chart. I don't know why, but in Chrome, if I do Command F for find, it does not actually search this chart. So note to self: if you're using Chrome, don't try to search the chart. It won't work. But you just kind of have to scroll through here. Look at the examples, because this is not like written in stone scripture kind of thing. It's based on these max numbers over here. But these are some good examples that'll get you as close as you really can. The nice thing about the settings that we have picked, look right here. We've got 1280 by 720 at 60 frames per second. That's right there as an example, and it says to use level 3.2, right? So that's the level. So, oh, how about that? That's perfect. So we're going to go over here. We're going to say 3.2. We're going to say, okay, the keyframe thing, you could change that if you want. Basically, what keyframe is instead of sending, because the way streaming works, right, we want to optimize how much data we're actually sending at a time. So instead of sending the entire screen frame by frame by frame, it sends an entire frame every 4 seconds. And in between there, it only sends what's changed, really. So, this... you can kind of imagine how that would affect your video. Obviously, if you're doing something if you're playing a video game, you're probably going to be sending an entire frame every time, however many frames you're sending per second. You're probably going to be sending an entire frame every interval. But you do cut on a little bandwidth, and over the long haul, it actually does add up. But if you're doing something like I'm doing, you're just browsing the desktop, for example, it would pretty much only be updating the areas where I'm moving my mouse, because nothing else is really changing. All right, so this thing maybe highlights and stuff like that, but so you save on bandwidth there. And if you're doing something like word process, I don't know why you would word process or stream on word process, but whatever. Over the long haul, though, you save bandwidth, so that's good. Anyhow, everything here is good, so we're going to start streaming in because we fixed that problem that we were having, and it should drop us over to log. Video encoding started, audio encoding started. Session started and network status connected. Oh, okay. See, this is the problem I was talking about. Right. So I remember how I said you don't want to leave this stream box. You want to change it to your key. Yeah, I didn't do that because I loaded the thing and I didn't change it, even though I had it configured properly before. So anyway, if you do that, this is the problem you're going to have. You're going to get network status, net connection dot closed status. And then if you look up above, it's going to say status failed. But then the second status is netstream.publish rejected. Anyway, that's basically Twitch saying you don't have the proper stream name, so you're not allowed to stream. Basically that stream does not exist, and that's that security through obscurity feature. And that's why it's there. So I'm going to go ahead and click the button. Haha, it does work. You see, this is my key. I'm going to change it as soon as I'm done with this, so don't try streaming to my Twitch. But it is important to note that anybody can stream to your Twitch with this number. So don't show it to anyone. I mean, what's the risk really? But, whatever. If you're concerned about it, just keep it private. And if you do accidentally spill it, like if you start streaming and this window is open and everyone can see the entire number, the cool thing is this number is so long that it doesn't fit in the box. So even if they got most of it, they couldn't get all of it. But even if someone got a hold of this, you could always click the reset key and then you're good. And that's what I'm going to do as soon as I'm done with this video. All right, so we fixed it. We're going to start where it's going to flip us over to the encoding log. Everything started and no errors, and look, we got numbers and stuff over here. That's cool. So if we go to Twitch, oh look, we're streaming. How about that? And then a second here, it's going to be a big loop. Yep, see, there we go. Also, if you note, I'm going to go back over here a second so we don't see the crazy loopiness. But if you also note, my camera is down here in the bottom left, just like we expected it to be. So cool, everything's working. Right, so now you're all set up, you're streaming, you're good to go, right? So when you're done streaming, you want to click the stop button. Unfortunately, there's no really cool keyboard shortcut for Flash Media Encoder to start and stop, because if you could, that'd be really awesome, and you wouldn't ever have to come to the screen. But what I recommend and what I've seen a lot of people do is they have a second monitor connected to their computer, and so just drag this window off onto that second monitor, and then nobody can see it. So just some privacy. There's also a way I've read to turn this off. Let's see if we can do that real fast. Okay, I don't think this is a... Yeah, that's lame. Okay, yeah, I've read that there's a way to turn that off. I don't see it, so we're not really going to worry about it. Yeah, and something else I noticed, that if you're concerned about this auto DVR record button, when I clicked start and when it was actually running, this record button was clickable. So apparently we have the ability to record on the fly or something. I don't know. Anyway, just something I observed just now. So what we're going to do is now we're assuming that we streamed our really kick-ass video game session and we got all kinds of cool stuff done, and everyone saw it because we have 10 million subscribers and it was awesome. Hey, we even raised money for charity because we're so badass, right? So now that we're done, we want to upload our videos to YouTube, or video, whatever. Maybe you want to cut it into multiple videos. I'm assuming that you do because your stream was 10 hours long because you're that hardcore, and you have a trash can, 10-gallon can completely full of empty Red Bull cans. Right? Hardcore. All right. So we're assuming that that's how it all went down, and it was awesome. We raised $1,000, $10,000 for charity, whatever. We're done with our live stream. So if we actually click play here, we'll see that it's offline because of my icon that I haven't changed shows up. So what we do is we're going to go to recorded, right? And this is where all of your streams that you've played are going to show up until you delete them. You have the ability to delete them, which is nice, and it keeps your list a lot more organized and concise and whatnot. But if you notice here, all of my streams start with the Flash Media Encoder. So I wasn't running 2 monitors at the time. I didn't really worry about it. Like I said, you can always change your key, and if you're concerned about it, just change it every session. It's not a big deal. Just make sure you update it and save your thing. So this is the one we just did. It's 36 seconds. Let's click on it and play it real quick. and the audio is really quiet. I'm not sure if it's because I did something wrong or if it's because could just be like the volume, like we are having volume issues. Oh, that's why. This is why. In order to get good volume, you're probably going to want to turn everything up, but I don't know if you can hear this, but it's really, really loud, especially in my headphones. So I haven't quite figured out a way to deal with that yet. If you have like a volume thing on your headphones, that would be awesome. But basically, all three of these, well, okay, in this specific case, you want headphones and SoundFlower too. SoundFlower's 16 channel doesn't count, doesn't matter. But these two need to be turned up pretty much all the way. Also, in Flash Media Encoder, turn your volume all the way here. That's going to be key too. Anyhow, something to keep in mind. Also, watch your mic input volume for the next session that we're going to do here when we talk about including your mic into the stream. That's going to be something, because you don't want your mic to completely overpower your game audio and stuff like this. You know, worst case scenario, they have to turn up the volume a little bit, but you want to make sure that everything is pretty much equalized so that nothing, it just blows something else out of the water. Otherwise, you're going to have issues. But we streamed. It was awesome. People could hear us. We didn't screw up. You know, we did it right. We're just exploring possibilities of what could have gone wrong here, right? So we're on this page. We're checking this video out. We liked it. It was great. We can you know, poke around and what happened. We can revisit the past and stuff. We can even share to Facebook and all this kind of cool things. But if we go here to this little wrench, we can do upload. Right? How cool is that? So this is actually going to upload to YouTube. Now, it's not going to download it to your computer and then upload it to YouTube. It's going to use Twitch's servers to upload directly to YouTube. So you're not even involved in this transaction. You're saving bandwidth here. And since it was a 10-hour stream, you don't want to have to download that, period, let alone re-upload it, especially, you know, with you've got 12 megs down, right? And you're downloading 10 hours worth of video encoded at 720p. That's going to take a hell of a long time, right? So you don't want to go there. Twitch TV is probably in a major fiber area. So they have like a fiber backbone, and they get like 100 megabit down or something like this, something crazy like this, and probably 100 megabit up as well, because the asynchronous behavior of upstream to downstream is actually not a result of the technology. It's created by the service providers. So you know, they probably have all kinds of kick-ass stuff, and they're involved with secret agencies and things like this. And anyway, point is, we can do, I would make this private. This is just personal preference, because we're gonna talk about editing the video once you upload it to YouTube. So for that, you just want to go ahead and make it private, and it doesn't matter what this stuff is because it's private. Nobody's gonna be looking at it anyway. So we're gonna click upload to YouTube. We're gonna be using their bandwidth to do this, right? All right, cool. So we clicked upload to YouTube. I was playing around with some stuff earlier. Let's actually just open a new window here, and hell, we'll go full screen with it. Bam. So we're gonna go to YouTube, right? So here on YouTube, you can see all of my stuff. Check me out. And we go to Video Manager, right? So now what we're looking at is this one right here. This is the one that we just uploaded with Twitch, right? Twitch did this for us. Thank you, Twitch. How nice of you. And it actually is going to send you an email whenever it finishes. So let's check. At least, all right, here's the deal. It does send you an email. I don't doubt that, but the email address I gave it was my junk email. It's my live.com email, and I don't ever check that. So we're not going to know until we know here. But basically, there it is, right? So it was only 36 seconds or however long, so it wouldn't take long. But it says HD, so we know we got it right. It's really badass. So if we just go to edit here, what we can see is all of this basic info and stuff like this. And right now, we don't give a shit about any of this, because our stream is 10 hours long. First thing we're concerned about is, how do we shrink it down or split it up or whatever. The way that we do that is we want to go to the editor. So we're going to click on Enhancements, because that makes sense. We're going to put the editor enhancements. And unfortunately, we can't split the video here. We can't like separate it and take pieces out and rearrange it and stuff like that. But what we can do, and this is the only downside really, what we can do is we can trim it, right? So our stream was 10 hours long, and we want to split it up into, you know, hour-long segments and make episodes or whatever, you know. So the way that we're going to do that is we clicked on trim there, and now we have this this interface down at the bottom, and we're going to drag the ending point to where we want it, right? So we're going to drag it here. We're going to cut this video into 10-second segments, right? So there's the first segment right there, 0 to 10, and if we click play from the beginning, we can see that it's only going to go for 10 seconds, and then it's going to stop, because that's going to be our new end, right? And I'm not actually going to play the whole 10 seconds. We get it, right? So I'm going to click done. That commits our changes to this copy of the video. Right now, what we're going to do from here, since you don't want to lose your 10-hour video, because it probably took quite a while to upload to YouTube, don't click save. Don't do that. Click save as. Okay, now we get sent to the videos page. If we just head back onto the over to the video manager, what we see here is this is the original stream. This is the whole 10 hours, right? This is the new video that we just created, the 10-second segment. And if we refresh the page, it should be done. If it's not, I'll be really disappointed. Wow, I'm disappointed. I guess there's like a minimum amount of time that it takes to process a video. Anyhow, it doesn't matter. It can still be processing, you know, because we're say we just did an hour, right? So this is an hour, not 10 seconds. It's still going to be processing. Doesn't matter. We can go ahead and edit it, and we can make all of these things whatever we want. So we can say, oh yeah, this is the first kick-ass segment of the stream, right? So, woo, that's awesome. Description, Twitch has a really cool thing that it does when it sends it to YouTube. It makes the description. If you actually copy this and load it up, it'll actually take you to the page, the Twitch page, where the recorded stream is. You know, but we don't actually care about that, so we're gonna delete it because this is not the whole thing. So, you know, segment, it's segment 1. We raised boatloads of cash for Child's Play charity. Sweet. All right, so cool. The tags, you know, charity, stream, whatever you want, you know, whatever. This is your YouTube. You know how it works, right? So save changes, and so all this stuff is saved. You know, obviously you want to make it not unlisted. You can do that by checking this thing, privacy settings. So from here you make it public, and then as soon as the video is finished processing, as soon as YouTube's done crunching the numbers and stuff, it'll be available, right? And you can do your monetization in your advanced stuff and you know, whatever. So the world is a fantastic place. So basically, that's how you do it. That's how you chunk your stream down into multiple segments. And if you see here, actually, that's what I'm working on right here. This is my main stream. It's an hour and 18 minutes long, and this is the first 30-second segment of it, where I was playing my first episode of Hitman 2. Hitman. That sounds funny for some reason. Maybe I've just been awake too long. Anyway, now another thing that you might want to do, like we were talking about, or I was talking about, we're not really talking. I'm talking, but we're still having a conversation. It's still cool. You know, no offense or anything there. But if we wanted to take, say, like a segment out of the middle, for example, or edit it, I wouldn't do this unless you really needed to. But here's something to take into consideration. Go back to your enhancements section, and you can actually trim another section. All right, so now we're gonna skip 10 to 20 because we went and got food because we had to eat or we were gonna die. So we're gonna skip that section, and then we're just gonna go all the way to the end because we pushed on through. We're troopers, right? So we're gonna do another save as. So we got our second segment. Now we can just go ahead and edit this actually right here because YouTube's awesome and it has in-place editing. So segment 2 of Kick-Ass Stream. And we're going to do save. All right, now we go back to our video manager. All right, now this is still unlisted. Once again, you probably want to make it public. But in this, okay, so in this specific case, say you're trying to then put these two pieces back together. So you plucked two little pieces out of your super mega long stream, and now you want to put them back together. Well, that's not too difficult. What we're going to do is we're going to go back to, say just the first one, for example. We're going to go back to edit, and we're going to go to view video web page. That's not what I want. We're going to go back to enhancements. No, we're not. We're not going to go there. Where are we going to go? Pardon me. We want to, how did I do this before? Video editor. Click on this tab right here. This will probably be the better way to go. Yeah, so here we go to video editor. This is where we can actually piece multiple things together. And we want to get this out of here because we don't care about that. So unfortunately the other video is not finished yet. It should be finished in a second. Let's just refresh. Let's just give it a minute. Okay, great. So we got segment 2 and we got first kick-ass segment. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag our first kick-ass segment down. Then we're going to drag segment 2 down. Now these two things are in line with one another, right? So if you go back to the very beginning, I don't know how to play the whole thing start to finish. How do we do that? This will just play the first segment, and this will, I wonder if it'll play through to the second one. Right, so we're finished up with that one. No, it didn't. It didn't go ahead and go over. All right, well, it doesn't matter. Let's just say, yeah, my edited video, whatever. That's good. So we'll publish. Right. So now this video is being processed. When it's done, though, you'll notice that it's going to be 26 seconds long, because the first video was 10 seconds, the last video was 16 seconds. And so basically what we did is we took the first 10 seconds and the last 16 seconds, excuse me, of that mega long ass stream, and we took the middle out and we put them together. So this is kind of a primitive way that you can do some editing without having to go out and get an editor and actually work with the files on your computer. This is all done in the cloud, which is what's really cool about it. So let's go back to our video manager. Let's refresh the page a couple times, and this thing should finish up here shortly. Okay, 17 seconds. Excuse me, I misspoke. It's still processing. All right, so it finished. I don't know why this still says edit in progress. We're not really going to worry about it. But this is the new edited video that we pieced together. Right? Obviously, we're going to want to make it public. But if you look real quick here, it's 27 seconds long. So it would appear, just based on the length of the video, that we actually achieved what it is that we were trying to do. So let's wait until we get to the 10-second mark, and we should see it jump to the second piece of that video. So 10, there we go. See, now we're on the second segment because it just jumped back there. So yeah, that's totally what we're trying to do. It worked. It's awesome. We're perfect. Now we've got our stream nicely presented without all of the, you know, maybe the silly mistakes we made or the stupid things that we said when we were streaming that we probably shouldn't have, or you know, whatever. So now we've got a nice, concise, edited, ready for, you know, production version of our video on YouTube. So that's it from start to finish. At this exact point in time, I haven't decided if I'm going to chop this thing up into pieces yet or not, or if I'm going to just do it all at one. I think it's ran, you know, rather long, but we'll see. Anyhow, thank you for watching. If you liked, please click the like button. You know, if you want to see more stuff, subscribe. You know, comment on the video. Let me know what you thought, and if you'd like to see anything else, or you have any other questions, or if I screwed something up, let me know so I can fix it. I appreciate your feedback. It's all for you guys. Thanks again. Hopefully I will see you around. Catch you later.